Hello everyone, and welcome to the first SaaStock Local Meetup in Sarajevo. My name is Berina, and I will be your host for tonight. I'm with the SaaStock Local team, Ankora. And in the beginning, I just want to say some words about SaaStock, what it is, and how it works for those not familiar with the SaaStock. SaaStock is Europe's largest conference with 4,000 plus attendees, 150 speakers with 40 plus hours of content. Due to the recent global pandemic, now running around the world as online events in Asia, USA, and of course, Europe. We have to say that this was a wild year for SaaS companies due to how they deliver their product, from a strong start of the year to a rapid devaluation in the face of a global pandemic and a return to form after it became clear that software wasn't a category that a consumer recession would harm, at least not for now. Indeed, the SaaS and other cloud companies have seen their valuations reach new heights in 2021, pushing the larger stock market up. But before we start, please let me get through details on the agenda on what to expect. We'll have two parts of the event today. In the first part, we gathered 6 experts that will share their story with you. And the second part is panel discussion, where the most important questions in SaaStock industry and startup world will be discussed. And now, I would like to invite Nermin Hadžić, SEO of Ankora, and one of the organizers of the event, to join me on the stage and share his thoughts on the event.
Thank you, Berina. So I won't be long today. I just want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I wanted to thank all the speakers who have made this event so great. I'll just touch base like why we decided to bring the SaaStock brand and SaaStock events to Sarajevo. Obviously, the software as a service and basically the entire industry has been growing rapidly in the entire world, and basically somehow we did not really manage to follow this trend in Bosnia, and we felt like if we bring such a brand to Sarajevo, we will somehow empower and basically give a reason to all the people involved in the software industry in Sarajevo to somehow put their knowledge, their problem-solving skills and creativity into creating products that will definitely create some additional value and basically show the world that great products can be created in Sarajevo and Bosnia, and that we really can create additional value and show the world that not only that we're not only good as engineers, but basically also as business owners and basically somebody who really contributes to the daily problems that basically they're solving. I think that our country has been a little bit behind the entire region in this sector, mainly because we didn't really have access to funds properly set up, or basically some key players in our country did not really recognize SaaS industry, or basically startup ecosystem as a value driver, basically driver of changes in the country. So I hope that this will change the next period, and basically that we will somehow manage to decide and basically to empower these people to really give a reason to young people to start their companies, to start businesses, and to really create additional value, and not only be, let's say, a workforce for foreign companies here in Bosnia. That's all for me. I would like to thank you all again, and I hope that you will hear a lot of useful stuff today that you will use in your own businesses and your companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Nermin. Also, one of the organizers is Matej Ožmah, director at SaaStock, running SaaS events in Europe, previously founder at Support Hero, Paris-based business that was sold in 2019. Matej will give us a brief introduction to the SaaS industry, so please, Matej, join me on stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Berina. Thank you, Nermin, for the warm introduction. You already did a good intro about SaaStock, so I will just improvise, so we don't need the presentation. So briefly about SaaStock and operations, what we are doing here in the Adriatic region, in the Balkans. So it all started in October 2020. I reached out to Alex. Alex is the CEO of SaaStock in London. If they have any goals to expand in the Balkan region, and he said, yeah, we are kind of lacking young enthusiasts and people that would connect SaaS founders and VCs and execs. And I said, yeah, let's try with Ljubljana and do a couple of events. And due to the COVID, of course, we couldn't do any live events. But I promised to myself that we will do more events that the whole world combined. So we did 20 online events together with Ankora, Nermin, and Dino. And then we started kind of thinking maybe we can do like a summer gathering, summer meetups, drinks. So we started in Zagreb. We did a pretty cool event together with with our partners. I will skip this part because Borina already stole my pitch. And I will just go to so these events probably wouldn't happen without the partners that help us spread the word, help us tremendously with the financially and with the media. So for the last two events, we were working with Ankora and Linux, and this event wouldn't happen with Oracle, BH Telekom, Neonivas, again Linux, Ankora, and iOS. Going back to SaaStock Locals, so the idea was to expand to Sarajevo and then Belgrade, and then to connect founders with VCs also in Macedonia. So goal is to bring live events back, even with the smaller events, maybe just the meetups. So I hope this is not the last event here in Sarajevo, so we can do more meetups, maybe unofficial meetups in the months and years to come. And about the global events, there was an announcement last week. We are doing the live event, in-person event, for approximately 3,000 people in Dublin. So very welcome to join us. And the next week we have so on October 12th we have the EMEA online event. So if you want to get the ticket, just send me an email or contact me. That being said, thank you very much for joining, and I hope that you will enjoy the event today and great networking as well.
Thank you, Matic, for this brief introduction. Now, I would like to introduce to you Adnan Huremovic, CTO at BH Telekom. He has been a part of BH Telekom journey. We can join this. He has been a part of the BH Telekom journey for over 16 years and steadily worked up to his current role as Chief Technology Officer in 2018. During his work, he implemented some of the most significant technological and transformation projects in BH Telekom. In addition, he is the author of several scientific and professional papers in the field of telecommunications.
Thank you for introduction, and everything works. Thank you for having me here to share some information, some steps that BH Telecom took over past 2 or 3 years, and also for opportunity to learn something from people here, because from several minutes and several talks that I had here before the start of the conference tells me that we still have a lot to learn on this field. So I will make a quick introduction of BH Telecom Tech Lab platform. This is a platform developed for startups in previous 2 years. And the motivation that BH Telecom decided to go into this field. So the dedication and the motivation is simple. We decided to diversify in our business and to take over all the opportunities that we can find here in Bosnia and also in the region and globally to enrich our portfolio. So we took one step to enrich our partner networks, but it wasn't enough because we had limited set of solutions that we still offering on the market. So we decided to go to unknown field for BH Telecom and to follow also the trend in the region and in Bosnia as well, to start to develop a startup platform. And I say we still have a lot to learn about steps in this process. So we had the first call in last year. It was the end of 2019, and we started to learn and to see what we will get as a response from the market. And as you can see, we just put a call and put a budget and say, okay, we don't expect anything from startups. We just need idea. We just need the best idea to say, and we will help to develop this idea with no expectation from return, only for us to have a chance and to give a chance to startups to go together on the market if we can find a win-win solution. So these were the results. As I say, it was very conservative in our first approach. We had about 50,000 euros for budget. We had all our resources, our people, our technology environment offered to a startup environment. And we were and still are very satisfied with the response that we get. So we get some very good solutions from startup market. We had several solutions that we went into the market together, but at the end of the story, we asked ourselves one simple question: what next? What should we do now? Okay, we get some startup, we get some business models, companies are starting to grow. We don't know how it's going to end. So let's try to educate each other, to try to educate startups as well as BH Telecom. What should we do next to make this story braver, to make this story more efficient for startup environment and also for BH Telecom? And that resulted with our initiative for this year. So we started to think bigger and offered to the market a budget of 50 million KMs and open call that doesn't have a lot of conditions for future startups. So our conditions are took from the best practice of the other platforms in the region and also globally. And this call, we decided also to learn from startups, learn from our partner network, and to try to give the companies that apply to BH Telecom all the help we can get. So we give them space, we give them BH Telecom resources, we give our cloud, our engineers, our system that are really unique in territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially related to telecom and ICT industry. And we open our door. It was also in this hotel, big shiny conference with our day, 5th of September, when we announced this, that we are going to open our doors to all startups and startup scenes. So this is ongoing call. We still have, already have about 10, and the number is growing every day, applications. We are communicating and try to exchange information with the companies, with our tutorials, with our business models. These are some of the areas that are pretty interesting to BH Telecom. It's not limited to these areas, but we are looking also to go into the startup industry per se, but also to make it compatible to help companies that are close to BH Telecom and can fulfill the portfolio of BH Telecom to grow together. But as I already said, we still have a lot to learn in this process, and therefore we opened our platform also for potential partners, and that is the main reason I'm here actually, to connect with other smart people that are already in this industry in the other side, not only in the side of future startup companies, but in the side of the mentors and the bodies that are making this success to happen. So hopefully within the discussion and with networking after this event, we will exchange all the information and make some good stories with future startups to happen. I will skip this just to focus on this already made network of partners within Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm very happy that we will make some new partnership here on this conference, and also the message for future startups. The door of BH Telecom are really wide open. We offer all our resources, not only to give future startups our resources, for example, on connectivity, on cloud platform, on budget, but also to exchange all useful information that we acquired during the past 2 years. So we learned a lot during the past 2 years, how to grow a startup, how to behave in the position of somebody who is helping to grow a startup, but we don't, what is really important to have in mind, we know that we still have a lot to learn. Please help us to go through this journey, and I hope we will tell a lot of good stories next year on the next conference. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Adnan. Our fourth speaker is Davud Bečirović, Oracle sales executive with a specialization in the telco industry, lead account manager for big clients in front of Oracle with several successful projects behind him. Davud joined us to speak about the importance of sales and what Oracle does to support startups. Davud, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks. Also, sooner rather than later, a day will occur where in the morning my curtains will open automatically, and once I step on my feet, my espresso, the double one I drink in the morning, will be ready for me to drink it. When I finish the morning routine and go to my work, I'll sit in my car that will be already preheated and with the engine started and operational for running. And basically, when I sit in my car, which will drive myself to my company, it will give me the calendar and the agenda of the following meeting and the following day. And basically, what needs to happen in order to have this as present is to have two facts. The first one is to have a brave startup, and the second one is to have the Oracle's autonomous database. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to this event. I believe this is a magnificent opportunity for all of us to connect. And I will use this opportunity to show you what Oracle really does for the startups in order for them to grow and in order for ourselves to grow. And maybe I'll take a bit of time to speak about some of the things from my life, to give you the perspective and to show you the message why the sales is so important in the whole process. And basically, when I remember my childhood, the first thing to remember were the bullets, was the war and everything. But I decided to remember some other things. I remember the first wave of entrepreneurs, the first startuppers. And these were people in all profiles, the doctors, the construction workers. All of them were so brave in building their businesses, taking their risks, and the only aim they had was to make a life better for their kids and the recovery economy. And one of these people was my father, God bless him. And in 1997, he formed a publishing company, and with a passion for the culture and the books. And since the market was so crushed and nothing was happening there, a machine after machine, in a couple of years, he was growing, and we were a company having 180 people employed. And we became slow, we couldn't make good decisions, we were not agile. And I remember it was 2007, and these were the first years that corporate sales guys came into the market. They had these shiny suits, they had their BMWs, and even, it was 15 years ago, they were paying with their bank credit cards. And it was something that was unbelievable to see. And what we didn't see was that they were a trained salesperson. They had everything, they knew what they were speaking about, and we all believed them. And a quarter or two afterwards, we found ourselves running in $100,000 software. We had sales, we had production, we had warehouse covered, we even had human capital management covered. And just to remember, it was 15 years ago. And having the top level software from one of the big companies, we were those who were running the show. Imagine a Bosnian guys having implemented the best possible softwares in the market, competing with everybody. But in fact, this show was not so shiny because of the bad implementation and the bad calculations in it. We were losing more than $1,000 daily. So a couple of years after, we were filing a bankruptcy and we were closing our business. And in that moment, I realized that everything started with the wrong way of implementing the product. And everything goes back to the salesman who was only looking to sell and run, not to solve our problems and help us growing. So now it's maybe contradictory for me to speak because I'm working for a big company, which is for me the biggest one in the market and the leader. But in fact, I'm proud to work with Oracle because as we are on the top and we are the biggest, we carry about the smallest. Larry Ellison was an entrepreneur. He failed 2 or 3 times. And I see this as a corporation giving back and investing in the small ones which will rise. So basically, this is a virtuous cycle of innovation. We are committed in doing good stuff for the startups. And I'll show you the startups program and the concrete offer that is in the market from Oracle. So as I said, we consider ourselves winners, but if we want to win, all of us in the ecosystem need to win. And we identified that the 3 main stakeholders in the market of startups are first you guys, the startups. So what we do for you, we offer you 70% discount on the period of 2 years. And we give you the global exposure and the connection to the customers. I'll come back a bit after on this and speak about more details. For our customers, we connect them to you through our marketplace. And you would say, why would any customer accept to connect with their resources and have a free marketing? Well, customers meet you. You are fast. You have the agile processes, and you are faster in innovation than anybody. And what is it for us, because we are a commercial company, not a philanthropist? Well, we stay at the competitive edge of the innovations with all of the solutions that complement our technology stack. The most important thing is we don't take equity. Oracle is not a vendor that would lock you up in a contract that would take your equity. We will not take some bad contract with some small print inside of it in order to lock you in with us. In the enrollment of our startups program, you don't have any kind of application process, any complication. We tried to make it as simple as possible. You get the free cloud credits, the migration support, the mentorship, which I'll speak about a bit later, which I believe has to be the main focus of this presentation. And since we consider ourselves the best value for money vendor, and we compete with the biggest ones, you get additional 70% of already cheap prices. With our startups portal, we give you the access to incredible resources from our libraries, from our education, and even as we speak, now we are giving the whole education and the courses, which are valuable, I think, around $4,000. We give them for free until the end of this year. So Oracle opened up. That's previously saw the enterprise, let's say, bigness and slowness. We opened towards the new markets. And finally, the qualifying startups can take the advantage. You can grow with us once you see the real opportunity is there, and you can take some more financing, etc., etc. And basically, these are the key points of why you should take us. So it's not only the price that matters, and I'm sure all of you know this, but we are an enterprise company. The biggest workloads all around the world were built by Oracles. The biggest institutions in the world have the Oracle's database, Oracle's Exadatas, etc., etc. We took all of this experience and we implemented it with our Oracle Cloud. Superior performance with easier migrations, one of the key factor. I'm sure that all of you saw some of the big application vendors that had problems with the communication not operating, etc. I will not say which ones, but in that moment, Oracle's all systems were operational. So whoever fails the Zoom, which is hosted in Oracle Cloud, and TikTok will surely be operational. So we don't lock you in. Using Oracle Cloud doesn't mean that you need to stop using Microsoft Azure, that you need to stop using AWS. We have a magnificent support between Microsoft and Oracle. We have a specific program between Microsoft and Oracle where you can put your workloads at the same time on the two different platforms. As I said previously, the enterprise level integration, the simple price structure and licensing. One interesting thing, when I came to the IT world, I came as an economist, as a small entrepreneur, and I didn't know anything about the IT. And when I was looking at prices from different vendors, it was just a mix of everything in my head that I didn't understood. Well, Oracle did even there, did a lot, and we pretty much have quite simple price structure and licensing. And furthermore, what I'm quite proud of is our SLAs. The rest of the vendors that provide cloud, they give you one SLA, we give you 3. So it's quite superior. And let's say finally, I'll tell you what we do on the global sales, on the global scale for the startups. In our marketplace, you can put your products, you can market them, you can even sell them. So basically, on the global scale, we show your product to more than 400,000 customers. And we use you also as marketing tools. So we invite startups that use our OCI on podcasts, on videos, on blogs, on our LinkedIn, etc. And we provide you to be the part of the biggest events that come into the market. Before the COVID happened, Oracle Open World was held in Dubai, in London, in Barcelona, in San Francisco, all around the world. And basically, even though the biggest shots in the market come to these events, the best startups that engage with us have the opportunity to show what they did, to show their experiences, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is quite valuable. And benefits of you coming to this Oracle story is you get, of course, the connection to the market. You give the credits program. So even though initially, because we are the good negotiators, initially we give you 70%, we give you 2 years of these extra prices, but you can always negotiate more. So you use it, you buy it more, we can always, let's say, come to the agreement. The third thing is mentorship. I know that for all of you guys, you're focused on the products and focused to make the sale. I saw many startups failing because of not knowing regulative, the government, the rules, not knowing how to control the costs, not knowing what to do in order to prevent problems to happen. And within this program, you can request a mentor that could adequately show you what you should be doing. And finally, the virtual library set in the Oracle's cloud gives you the access to the infinite number of videos, presentation, education, and basically we give everything. So if you are any from this screen and you want anything out of this orange, what you should do. It's really easy. Nermin and Kerim from Ankora did it. They did the process so they can tell you what they did. You sign up, receive free credits, and start building. As soon as you register, somebody from Oracle will call you, set a Zoom call with you, and show you everything that you need to do. And even myself, again, I'm an economist, I managed to create my first database while I was selling this. I needed to see how it works in order to sell it and speak about it. And basically, this is it. I think the coffee is right away after my speech, so it's not. I didn't read the agenda good. But basically, thank you. If you have any questions when the coffee break, just ask me. And also, my colleague from the Startups program is here. We are here for you. Thanks.
Thank you, David. I would invite Vedran Blagus to step on the stage. Vedran is an investment manager at the regional venture capital fund South Central Ventures. He used to work as a consultant in Big Four companies, and for the last 4 years, he has been looking for new startups to invest in.
I think this is the first time I'm presenting like here, like it's like a congress. Usually I have something to hold in my hand. Anyways, sorry? No, I'll stay here. It's the first time. Anyways, when I saw slides from David, very nice slides, and then it's me, it's very shitty slides, but hopefully you guys are gonna learn something out of it. And like you're gonna have to wait a bit for the coffee break, so sorry about that. But I'll try to be very honest, concise, and hopefully we're gonna learn something from this very short lecture. I'll just briefly say, who we are, what we do, and then I'll just really try to be very honest, going like straight to the point, what we do, what do investors look in startups, what we look in, and so on. So just very shortly about me, my experience was in consulting industry back then in Big Four companies, KPMG, EY, PwC, did a bit of studies abroad, but past four and a half years I've been part of the VC fund, been on the board for several companies as a board member or board observer. And just very short about us, we are a regional VC fund, so we have offices in Ljubljana, Zagreb, Belgrade, and Skopje. We do invest in Western Balkans. We do also invest in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but unfortunately we do not have any investment so far here, but that's why I'm here, and hopefully I'm gonna find some startups who are ready for investments and who would fit our investment strategy. So we're primarily investing in B2B SaaS startups, but we're not limited to this. If you're like IoT or marketplace or B2C, we're open to that. Seed stage, Series A, any industry, so it can be agri-tech, it can be fintech, it can be market-tech, whatever there is, apart from biotech. So we don't really know this that much, so we cannot help you with that. But next to that, so we're raising a first fund. The first fund was 18 million. Second fund, which we're investing from, is 40 million. And now we are raising a new fund, which will be operational this quarter. So we'll be ready to invest new money with the first close of around 40 million, and we're aiming to have around 70 million 1 year. And basically our tickets, like investment tickets, are like from 300,000 euros per company, and we can go up to 5 million euros per company. Always for minority share, so we take share, and this is our business model. We don't do it for free, but hopefully we're gonna help you, scale it and everyone's gonna earn some money from it. So I'll basically speak how the fundraising process looks like and what the investors are looking in startups. Usually there's some misconception, but basically I think the first question every startup should ask themselves is like, am I really investable? Do I really need the funding? And because not every startup is ready to funding. As I said, we're investing money for X amount of shares, and hopefully in 5, 6, 7 years, we're going to sell it. We're going to sell our 10% of shares. You guys are going to sell 90% of the shares. Everyone's going to earn money. Everyone's going to be happy, and then everyone will go to another venture. So, but just if you decide to go investor, if you decide to go for the investment, whether this is the angel investor, the VC fund, or accelerator, or incubator, whatever there is, it takes time. I would say if we speak today, and then by the time that you get investment, I don't think we can do it in less than 3 or 4 months. Basically, I like to say it's a marriage on a certain period of time. So we're gonna be working together for like 5 years, and then everyone's gonna part ways and hopefully get the success out of it. But next to that, if you get investor on board, it's not only you. You have to. There's like reporting that you have to do to investor, and you have to you have the support from their side. But at the end of the day, if you decide to go the investment for the investment, you know that it's going to be at the end you who's going to be running the business. So very a bit ugly slide, but very general one. We're looking for a startup who's like hopefully in a big enough market with a good enough team with okay product. Product is not that much relevant, we would say. And then, we put a bit of fuel, a bit of money, a couple €100,000, a couple million euros, and then hopefully, it's going to go up, and everyone, there's going to be, there's going to be like the growth potential, and we're going to make the success story. What you have to decide on, and we kind of distinguish 2 startups in our portfolio. It can be, and you have to decide this as well. I like to call this either a regional champion or a global challenger. So if you're a regional challenger, you're trying to be the number 1 here in the region, not get the monopoly, but we like to see the monopoly here. Or if you're doing a global challenger, you're competing with the best. So your market is, worldwide, or let's just say Europe can be big enough. But, just getting the investor, whether it's the VC fund, whether it's the angel investor, it can bring a couple more, benefits. Apart from money, you can get network either to different partners, because we don't just give money and just let you, run your business. We really want to help you. This is, let's say, included in the price. But then sometimes, when you start working with some larger companies, if you're in a B2B space, enterprise companies, they're looking for someone's behind you, and if they see for potentially a VC fund who can fund you, and that you're not going to be bankrupt in 3 months, they're more keen in working with you. But if you're a startup, in a very early stage and your cash flow is very low, usually, they're not keen in taking these risks. Okay, I thought maybe it doesn't see it here, but basically here where it says, it's just a different stage of financing. You cannot see the picture that well here, but you need to know that, taking any investor on board, depending on the stage, you're going to, we don't like to say lose the share, but you're selling the share. Bring every investor on board, like you start with 100% of equity, but eventually by the round of financing of, 6, 7 rounds of financing, you as the CEO will drop down to 15%. I think one of the founders who had the biggest share before the IPO was, I think, Mark Zuckerberg. I think he had around 35, 37% before they exited, but usually founders are around 10, 15%, depends. But then we always like to say, do you want to have 100% of a company valued at 0, or do you want to have 15% of company valued at $1 billion company? And you need to know that, eventually your shares will decrease, but in the long run, it's worth much more. When I did visit Bosnia and Herzegovina several times past couple of years, and I usually see the startups in a very early stage here. Not sure if you can see it, but there's like a dip there. It's called Valley of Death. This is like a very early stage companies that are, still, trying to see, what's their product market fit. They're running out of cash, and this is where most of the startups eventually die. If you get out of it, if you start getting the first traction, first revenue, customers, pipeline, whatever there is, hopefully you get investment, and then there's several rounds of financing. So we come, for example, us as investors, we come around, you have, we call MRR, monthly recurring revenue at let's say it's 5,000 MRR, and we would invest probably around 300, 500,000 euros per company to scale your business. What I can see, so I'm based in Zagreb, but I do actively work on pipeline, for example, in Slovenia and Croatia. We've seen lately a lot of angel investors investing in startups. So what we saw, especially in the past 2 years, if I would go 4 years back, angel investors would be putting around 10, 15,000 euros in investment, but lately we see them putting more than 100,000 euros. They're not publicly exposed. They're around there. They don't consider themselves as investors, but they're usually CEOs of managers of some larger companies, enterprise companies, and they do really like this space. So if you have any network or trying to find the angel investment, do reach out to your network, to your friends, to your family, and so on. I would honestly say, if I hear startups here saying there's no money on the market, I would say there's definitely too much money on the market. It's just a question, are you guys really investable? Which I will cover 3 next topics right now. So basically, when you go for investment, there's what we usually see that startups do not even know why do they need investment. So they're like, I need investment, I don't know how much, or if they say the number, they're like, okay, I need 100,000 euros, and ask them, what do you need it for? And they're like, I don't know, salaries, whatever. But apart from that, there's no what's next. So I would say when you go out to pitch, there's 3 main questions, or 3 main KPIs that you have to say. So you say, I'm raising X amount of money. So let's say I'm looking for investment for 200,000 euros, which I will spend in between 12 to 24 months. And with this, I will do X, Y, Z. For example, I will open 2 new markets, I will get to this amount of revenue, or I will build this kind of product, and so on. And then the 4th question is basically, what after that? What after 12 or 24 months? Are we going profitable? Are you looking for another investment? If yes, how much? And this is basically where most of the startups do not have a clue. So please, when you go to investor, please, also do the research, whether they fit your strategy, whether you can fit their strategy, and so on. So if there's investor investing in Series B, which is 10 million euros plus, there's no point probably reaching out to them. You're just spending yours and their time. Be prepared. There's 3 main stuff that you usually talk about investors, and their team, their product, and their market. We in the region are very tech-oriented. Most of the founders are tech-oriented, I would say 90% of them. And when they talk about, when they're pitching to us, I would say that 90% is, or 85% they're talking about the product, 10% about the market, and 5% about the team, if they even mention a team. So I'll be completely honest now, we basically do not care about the product that much. So the main slide, everyone in early stage is team, because primarily we invest in you. Then so let's say this is 60% of whatever, of the 100%. 30% would be the market. Is the market the product you're building for? Is it growing? Is it large enough? Can you scale it, and so on? And lastly will be the product. Product is if the team is good enough, they'll find a way. They will pivot, and they will change the product to the direction they need to. So what we look in a team. So once again, please do put a slide with the team, and then if you had a startup, if you failed, tell everyone I failed. Okay, if you lost the money from the investor, say why you lost it or what you learned out of it. If you look at the startups who failed 3 times, they lost 3 times the investment. Okay, there's something not good with them. There's very unpopular opinion. This is what I think. Basically. It's getting the investment early stage is a very gut feeling. So whatever the numbers you have, if we do not fit together, it's also us looking for you guys, and you are looking for the investor. You don't want to have anyone here just telling you what to do. So I would say, not sure if this is a popular opinion, but in the first 40 seconds you enter the room, the meeting room, you can basically see whether you can work with this person. And then the process of 4 to 6 months of investment, if you like each other for the first 40 seconds, and the next 4 months we're just trying to look, what's missing, we're trying to find the flaw. And then hopefully we always find the flaw, whether it's a product, it's a market, or like the issue with a co-founder or with ex-employees, whatever there is, we find it, but we try to mitigate the risk. And of course, we're looking for a past experience. If you're like doing something for a legal tech in the legal industry, and you're coming from, I don't know, pharmacy industry, and if you don't have experience, I guess, we would just pass the deal. Like, you have to do this. If you're doing a niche market, please do have someone on the team who knows that. Next to that would be nice also to have a very diverse team, so not 3 developers. Would be nice to have someone on sales team, someone on tech side. Next to that, if you're a solo founder, it's again a very big risk, so please get a co-founder, because we're always like mitigating the risk. What if something happens to you? What if you get run over by a car? What do we do then? And then we need to find a replacement. Usually we don't. But we do try to see those risks as well. They're like very low level, but please do be a team of 2 or 3 people. Product. Okay, so this is somewhere where most of the startups here will be talking, days and days and days, and we will be like, okay, whatever. They will be talking. They will be showing us a demo. They will be showing us a code, and we as investors would be, okay, whatever. Like, okay, show us the traction, show us the pipeline, show us the revenues you have there. So we would be looking here like, have we seen this product in the past 6 months or 1 year a lot? Is this very populated market or not? So if we saw this product like 10 similar solutions the past 6 months, most likely we would pass the deal, because it's obviously everyone's in that space, but someone will be in there. So then we will be looking more in terms of the revenues. The revenue is the key here. Every startup should be aiming, it's revenues, revenues, revenues. And, the business model, I would say if you're aiming to go B2C, I would discourage you doing so. It's very expensive, it's very hard. If you're doing a hardware business, I would discourage you, do not do hardware business. It's very hard, it's very expensive. Especially nowadays, getting all the supplies, from wherever you're ordering, mostly from Asia and so on. If you're B2B, or if you're B2G, I would say definitely no, do not do that. But we're here at the SaaS event, so hopefully there's most of you are like SaaS businesses, and you're at the right place at the right time. And lastly would be the market. Is it big enough? What are the trends? Which is it going down or not? I think it's something that's very good to see it. I think Gartner is releasing every year, the trends of every technology. Is it up? Is it down? I think right now AR and VR is going down, and like in the next year or 2, we're gonna see it. Is it gonna be, is it going up again, or like is it just going to die out? I'm not sure. I think it will go up, with the technology and so on. But basically, is there big enough market that you can generate X amount of revenues that you can sell the company for 100 million euros, whatever there is. Okay, it's just very short tips and tricks, what not to do. Please, okay, or like very simple what to do. Please, whenever you're speaking to anyone, the customers or the investors, please speak in very simple words. Do not use the jargon. We understand it, but be very, very simple. Do not say that there's no competition in the world. There always is. There's always like some substitute for it. Whatever you're building, there is always competition. We usually have like 20% of startups are like, oh, we're doing groundbreaking technology, but if no one uses it, what then? Then going back, like if you're asking funding, you need to know why, at what you're going to spend the funding. Also, it says here, don't be inconsistent. Because in those 4 months, we're going to check on you, like if you've been saying that I'm going to close the deal next month if you don't do it, and then we keep everything, we keep track of everything. But we were always thinking like, if you cannot explain it to either the investor, to us, or if you cannot explain your business in one line to someone on the street, then we're always like, how will you sell it to someone else? How will you sell it to your customer or whoever there is? Just very short, as I said, I'll just go very through. Like, it's 4 months of, at least 4 months of investment. We did, I think, the shortest one in 2 months. Some of them we did in 2 years. But there's a constant, meetings, getting to know each other. The term sheet, or like this is like, term sheet is like, it's not the investment document, but basically saying what are our rights, your rights. We do the due diligence of every company. And I would just mention one, which is the most relevant one, and this is integrity due diligence. So basically, from the first time we meet you, we try to find out as much as we can about you guys, whether it's your ex-colleagues, your current colleagues, it's Google, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's newspaper, online newspaper and so on. So we're trying to see, who are we working with, can we work together? Usually, we decline people because they fail on this integrity one, because they write all sorts of stuff, for example, on Facebook, which is we would not want to be linked to it, for example. So at the end, it's like, if you get investment, it's not happily ever after. It is, if everything goes well, but then there's some constraints, like you get usually a board member, you need to report to the investor. They can also, they have the investor has some influence, but it doesn't, or it should not involve operationally. So if there's, I would say, if there's investors telling you what to do, what direction to do, I would say no to them, because at the end it's you who's running the business. But then again, investor is not there just to give you money, but also open you to new clients, to new prospects, to help you with fundraising for the next stage, and so on. And I guess that's it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Vedran. Right now on our schedule is a break, so you can find your finger food in the hall and refreshment in the bar, and I would kindly ask you to be on your seats in 30 minutes. And one quick reminder, parking is free. You just have to show your tickets on the reception.
Što bi ovo cijena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija DH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. DH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bi ovo cijena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bi ovo cijena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Šta bio ovo Zena?
Ma ništa, malo da vidiš šta je prava akcija.
Nova super akcija BH Telekoma. Imaš sve uz Moja TV. Bogatiji sadržaj i veće brzine do 100 megabita za nove, ali i postojeće korisnike. HBO Premium, Arena Sport u HD rezoluciji i Moja Web TV na poklon 24 mjeseca. BH Telekom. Moja priča.
Dobrodošli u moj web shop. Kupujte brzo i sigurno. Uređaje i usluge BH Telekoma uz brzu dostavu na kućnu adresu bilo gdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Na moj web shop.bhtelekom.ba pronađite korpu i započnite najsigurniji i najbrži shopping. Moj web shop, moja kupovina.
Okay, so show must go on, and we are back. Now is the time for a panel discussion, and I'm inviting our first panelist to join me. She already did that. She's Diana Jindo, and she's a co-founder and executive director of the Foundation 787. So far, Foundation has supported over 500 founders of startups. The second one is Dusan Omercevic, previously applause. Previously SEO at Clean Shelf, a company acquired by Linux, now a vice president of product in Linux, responsible for end-to-end product development of Linux SaaS intelligence. The next one is Faruk Mustafic, co-founder of a few startups in a few industries where he saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. He was always passionate about everything related to education, and he's currently pursuing that path. The last, but not least, is Eyüp Hadžić. By profession, he is an economist, and by experience, a product manager. Along the way, he passed several operational positions of a project manager in both local and foreign companies, which served as preparation for entering the startup world, creating their ideas and products. After a couple of attempts and unsuccessful ideas comes the startup tire. Welcome to the stage.
I'll announce myself because Berina forgot to mention me. So hello again. So here in this panel discussion, I would love to touch base on some really important things that startup founders usually forget, and basically because tech people usually tend to focus on product, and basically they think all the time that the product they're building is the best product in the world, and they usually forget like all the consequences the product actually bears with itself, or they just actually do not see all the bad sides of the product they're creating. And today I would like to touch base on these couple of points that are really pain points but shall be considered and are really, really important. And if not taken care of properly, they can lead like to a complete, let's say, collapse of the company and even some similar things. So my first question is, let's define which thing do startup founders usually forget to pay attention to, and it's quite important early stage and even in the phase of scaling the team. So I'll start with Diana, and then we can continue with the rest of the team.
Hope this works now. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I laughed, as you saw, because that is really complex and it's really difficult to answer simply because every startup is different. But basically, there are a couple of patterns we definitely see, and I would just maybe like to add to what Berina, as moderator, mentioned. I'm leading Foundation 787, and we support both early stage businesses and startups. We do make a difference, so these 500s were not just startups. But basically, I would say first thing is waiting to test, to get the market fit, to see, to validate, thank you, to see if there is really somebody on the market who needs this. They spend time in developing very good MVP in various business development activities, but not really going to the customers, and this really comes in quite late for really a lot of startups. Although they hear it all the time, it's really obvious, but it's really, let's say, pattern number one. The other thing would definitely be trying to do everything on their own. One man or one woman show bootstrapping in financial and human resource ways, every possible other way, and also not leaning to the ecosystem and all the stakeholders that could support with advice, etc. So I would say these are two main things. And when we are talking about the scaling, if I can say, I think we are, if we're talking about Bosnia, we are really lacking understanding of big markets. We are not ambitious at this point. I'm not saying that there are no startups or founders that are ambitious, they are, but if we are looking at the average, we are not so ambitious. We always have this, oh, let's start Bosnia, maybe Croatia, maybe Serbia, and then in 5 years, maybe EU, and then in 10 years we go. If you're a startup, and especially if it's SaaS, if it's some, version of a simple business model that is really plain, there's no really need to have these kind of limitation. However, I at the same time understand that going to another foreign big market is a task for itself. You need knowledge, you need connections, networking is very important. So I would say those 3 things for the beginning.
Thank you. Ayo, please continue.
Ed? Oh, thank you. I just want to confirm the 2 points that she mentioned because I fell into both of them myself. For the past 3 years, I've been building my own startup, and the first point was to validate, and I think the importance here is to mention that we do not validate the problem enough, not the solution, and that's the trap I fell into. I had a product, I had an idea, and I wanted to force it on the market instead of really thinking what is the underlying problem that I'm trying to solve. Even though I felt, and I had previous experience with before this startup, that I spent 5 months talking with relevant people, I thought I got that idea validated, but it's just the wrong thing. You have to validate the problem. And the second one is basically wearing too many hats, trying to do everything yourself. In a startup, you have to do that. You can't avoid that, but you have to be honest with yourself, because I spent 2 years trying to do sales or trying to do different things that really didn't lay well with me. It's not me. And you have to be honest with yourself. So if it's not something that you want to do, internally drives your energy and drains your energy too much, outsource that. Find a way to not do that. And I think that because, first of all, you're not earning money usually for a beginning period of your startup, and you need to focus on things that do not drain your energy as much. Of course, many things you have to do that you don't want, but if there's something that really not lays well with you, try to figure out a way how to do it. Outsource it or find a solution to it. So just to confirm on her 2 points.
Faruk, please go ahead.
Okay, it works. So I knew a few things about startups that they should not forget, but I forgot most of them. But at least I remember one of them. Most of startups, I did this error on my own. So you need to distinguish between the vision. The vision is where you're going long term, so you want to be the best startup, invest everything. But there is a groundwork that needs to be done. And people often just stay in this cloud of ideas and big picture, but often they forget that they need to just sit down and do the groundwork. And I'm also, for example, doing this sometimes, but this is, I think, one of the things that startups tend to forget and need to remind themselves of. At least you need to be conscious of that.
Please, do you mind sharing how it looked like at the beginning of your company?
Great to be here. So I'm no longer founder. I exited 6 months ago. But if I look, thank you. But if I would kind of give my younger self an advice, it would be expect a very, very tough road. So one thing that founders don't really understand is how hard are the startups. It's amazingly hard journey, and it doesn't get any easy. So you think that it's really difficult to get angel round, but you only think that until you are into seed. And then it's Series A, and that's how far along the journey I came, and I can tell you getting that far was extremely, extremely hard, and with other founders I spoke, they all shared the same experience. It's a really, really hard journey.
Thank you, guys. So you have mentioned product market fit as one of the most important topics, and basically validating the problem itself is also quite important, as you mentioned. So I just wanted to hear out, like, just short, like, what is the percentage of startups that you feel like have done the proper market research and, I don't know, define a sort of value proposition before they really start developing the product? You know, did they actually work themselves as some sort of tool, you know, before developing something technological-wise? Or, you know, did they use Airtable, like the database, or some, like, hacking around before they really approach building the product? Or what is the case here, like, let's say, in our country? So, Diana, I feel like you are the most relevant to answer this.
Okay, I can just hear from our experience and what we see. But unfortunately, I would have to say less than 10%. It should be like other way around, at least. So a lot of reliance on intuition, on experience from the immediate surround environment, not really doing the wider validation. So unfortunately, that is one of the huge issues, and the tools are all there. However, caught up in everything that's going on, I don't know, I guess it's not priority, or people fell in love in their idea, or I'm not sure, but it's really low percent at the moment.
Thank you. So I would like to mention the next quite important thing, and basically that is, let's say early enough, you really have to do a lot of things yourself. I would love to hear out, like especially from you, Ayu, because you had actually this problem, how to handle the hiring process early stage, because you just mentioned that you have to outsource something that you do not feel comfortable doing yourself. How shall that process go? If you're limited with funds, shall you offer, I know, equity, or how do you actually solve this problem, basically how to handle hiring early stage? And of course, Dusan, I would like you to tell us like how to do it like later on when you actually have the money, but resources are the problem.
Yeah, so it relates to the community and the mentality issue that I think that we have right now, and the lack of startup savvy community, so to say. When you're an early stage startup, my advice, based on my experience, it's biased, it might be wrong, but you should avoid hiring as much as possible, but also look to outsource the things that, as Dusan said, it's really hard. So if something is really, again, to just come to the point of energy drain, if something is really draining your energy, try to outsource that. It's a place, hard place, between a hard place and a rock. So you have to find the balance there. Hire only if maximally necessary, but my opinion is to minimize it because of the community issue that I mentioned. When you think about how can you attract the best talent, you want the best, but you can get it. You can only get juniors. If it's on a tech side, you can get juniors. It's going to drain your energy to teach them, to monitor them. It's just going to cost you more in the long run, so don't do that. But you can attract talent if the community is tech savvy and if the idea and startup attracts attention. You can offer equity, employee stock option pool, or pure co-founder equity, whatever. But at that stage, usually in the world, we are talking about 0.1 to 2 to 3 maximum % of the equity. When you mention to someone, come to startup, work 24 hours a day, and usually what startups entail and what kind of intensity it is, and you mention them like you'll get 0.5% equity in 2 years with, vesting and what if you leave in 1 year you won't get anything and so on. So when you mention it to somebody here, like you're a crazy person. Nobody understands that. What are you talking about? 0.5%, like I want 50. So it's really underlying issue here is the community. So for that reason, I would avoid hiring in this area, but again, it's between hard place and a rock, so difficult to decide. It's a complex issue.
So in early stages, the founding team should actually be extremely involved in all the key decisions. So you should be extremely hands-on. So you mostly hire engineers, sole contributors, So people who have a very specific tasks to do. But after you move past the Series A stage, it's time to hire executives, and the nature of game changes completely, because executives, they don't kind of really follow exec orders, but require independence, so you handle them responsibility for large part of the organization. Also, in early stages, the founders can be experts basically in all areas, but once you grow past some stage, you really need to hire people who are much better than you in that particular domain. So when you hire, let's say, first an executive for sales, you're really betting the company on that person. So for example, you built your company for 3-4 years, and then if you miss-hire, if you pick the wrong sales leader, basically your company has extremely high chance of failure. So you're making tremendous amount, tremendous leap of faith that the person you will hire will be the right one, and there's no other way but to trust them, and there is no recipe for success. So even the best people with most experience only have 50% success rate, for example, in hiring sales leaders. So hiring executive teams after Series A is one of the hardest things you'll experience if you hopefully get to that stage.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm always using the notebook because somebody says something, then I know the answer to that. Not the answer, but reply, but I forget, so then I have the points. Okay, so yeah, in the early stage, I agree that HR in general, not just hiring, but HR or managing staff in general, in the beginning is very hard thing to do, especially if you're running a software startup, because most software people are not people, so it comes hard to them to do some stuff. One of the fun stories that I heard, it's not my personal one, but it's one from the guy who has managed 2 or 3 multi-million-dollar, multi-times $10 million companies, and he said, my first company, I wanted to just get the guy out of the company, so basically to give him not a resignation, but resignation from his side, yeah. And he made a call with him, he made a meeting with him. They talked for like 30 minutes, and at the end, when the guy exited, he was not even aware that he was not part of the company yet. So it's really hard to do things. Even the best people who are now multimillionaires, it's not all about the money, but they know how to manage the process, still had problems in the beginning. So don't feel bad if you have the problems initially. And also, I think when hiring, they need to know the technology if you're hiring developer, etc. But you need to find people who are fit to use. So my litmus test is, can you go out with them on Friday night without talking anything about the work? If you cannot, then probably they are not, I mean for the early stage, because early stage startup needs to be coherent, and there is not only money involved, there is other soft factors, because people need to feel like part of something bigger, and they need to hold even in the bad times. So that's my litmus test. And it's better to hire less but better people, better not only by the technical knowledge, but better by all of these soft and hard factors. And one more thing is also that they need to feel personal connection to, for example, you as a CEO. If you're CEO, don't act like you're like the king or something. Act like you are at the level of the workers. And the fun example that happened relatively recently is that Elon Musk sent personally the email to all of his workers in the Tesla. He said them, okay, we are in a bad situation. I know how it is. We cannot increase your payments, but be assured that I'm with you, you are with me, and once we get out of this, everybody will benefit. So even at that level, they still do that. So try to build these personal connections. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So my next question would be around like how the environment, because you mentioned something like that our community right now is not really ready to be equity-based co-founder, or basically however we can call it. So I want to check with you, like, how does the environment really impact the development of startups? Like, it doesn't matter, like, if it's locally, Dusan, you can actually maybe talk about the global factor of this, because you are actually part of several communities. But basically, in the local one, I'm quite curious, like, how do the things look at Dusan, you can continue and we can then.
I'm based in Slovenia. So the startup ecosystem there substantially improved over the last decade. So I hope that also in Bosnia a similar ecosystem will develop, because when I started the company 6 years ago, it was quite hard for me to raise angel round, because there wasn't much capital around. But now, 6 years later, we had more than a dozen exits in Slovenia, so a lot of founders made a really good money, and now we are reinvesting money in new startups. So now 6 years later, we've developed quite a good ecosystem that will support the future generations of entrepreneurs. But I'm also quite in touch with the Silicon Valley. And while we are very proud of accomplishments in Slovenia, we are light years behind Silicon Valley, where they had several decades of this well-building and reinvesting. And having such a great ecosystem and environment is what really help people be ambitious. So we've heard that here in Bosnia, people maybe lack ambitions, but it's also the environment. So if you don't see success stories around you, if you don't have the proper supporting environment, it's hard to be ambitious. So don't expect that things will change overnight, but at least the story from Slovenia, I can tell you that with hard work over many years, the successes start to accumulate, and then at some point you get to a very supporting environment, and ambitious can grow much bigger than before.
Thank you for quite detailed elaboration on this topic. You continue.
Yes, I mean, when you talk about the ecosystem, it's really difficult to grasp what it means. And Foundation 787 is definitely the case here that has the experience of what kind of a problem and how big of a challenge it is that we are tackling. And you can divide it in multiple parts, but government, awareness, community, ideas, ambitions, actual logistics part of opening a company or something like that. All of it makes an ecosystem. And fortunately enough, right now, even in Bosnia, I can say that I had more times, I had to say no to grants and sponsorships or programs or any kind of help for startups than I had to look for it. So definitely the state changed in that part, even in Bosnia. There is opportunity, there is money, there are angel investments, there are programs, for getting money, but we definitely lack the ambition when it comes to the individual part of. I personally do not know, it's kind of weird. In the past 3 years, I see and hear less and less people trying to do something or trying to build their own startup. So before, when I heard somebody talking about spreading awareness of any sort of, I was like, what does that even mean? But I honestly now understand what it means to really having to need to spread the awareness of the value of startups and what can it bring to you personally, because we are entrepreneurs, we want to succeed and we want to achieve our personal goals, whatever it is, but also what it means to the community and for the country itself. So it's a complex issue, and I'll let Dana talk about that more, as she's much more hands-on on multiple fronts.
Yeah, I think the first issue we have here, so as you said, ecosystem is comprised of a lot of individuals, organizations, institutions, etc. But the first thing we have as an issue here is that we misuse the word startup, where startup means any new business, even if it's fast food, and even if it's, time management, app or whatever, hair salon, etc. we have been also making that mistake as organization because we were trying to communicate with banks, with governmental institutions, because they know only that. And we were like going, trying to make it easier for them to make things happen, but then we realized, okay, we have to first correct this so that we differentiate. Startups are one thing, and baby businesses or new SMEs or local businesses, however you call it, it's different thing. Both are very valuable, very important in local economy. Even these baby businesses can be very, very important for the growth of startups as they grow people that can go beyond. So that's the first thing. And then in our ecosystem, we see a lot of things, but they are at the very basic level at the moment. They are not interconnected. There's really a lot of space for growth. However, there are opportunities, and I think you are the lucky one, because at the moment, you got a lot of offers, but then that's not the usual case. And I would say that this is because you were recognized as a person valuable to invest in, as Vedran was mentioning before. And the key is to grow people, not startups, and we can do it by meetups, by exchanging information, by exchanging contacts, by learning all the time, going across industries, across disciplines, because this is what is basically the future. If you want to have successful startups now, you have to combine things. It's not enough. I mean, yes, niches still work, but to some level, that's really small percentage. So I feel that there are things helping in the ecosystem, but there's still a lot more space, especially in field of knowledge and access to finance. Access to finance is really lacking in the ecosystem in Bosnia. So I'll stop there.
That would be next topic, but before, Faru, please. Go.
So first, not reply really, but related to what you said, relatively, I think that VCs, even that the USA market, for example, you said it's well-developed ecosystem that works, that's totally true. But there's always a point when you get to that, when something that really works well becomes, starts crashing. So for example, that's why Empires crashed, that's why IBM was at the top of the game and then crashed. So there is always a point when you become too, I'm not sure which words can I use in this panel, but when you become too
relaxed.
Yeah, too relaxed. So I think that VC in the USA, for example, so this is not my personal opinion, this is the opinion of the people that are in the VC industry, and they think that the VC in USA has become a bit of, not bubble, but let's call it not so good system. So they are just need to invest money to something, and then they invest it, and then they go for growth. So it's even, when you say you have profits in the US VC world, they say, okay, you have profits, why are you coming to us? We need growth. And then WeWork happens, or something like that happens. And usually, for example, in the stock market, when you compare to that, when something is too highly overvalued, people look for alternative opportunities. And alternative opportunities to USA is Europe, Western Europe, or Asia. And I think similar things should happen with the VCs. So VCs will try now to look for some alternative opportunities. So I'm trying to find something good in something bad. And I think it's really good thing that the US market is too overvalued, in a sense that probably the opportunities will maybe, I hope, come to other segments as well. So maybe you want to reply to this? Okay.
Yeah, what you said is very much so. So, for example, Launch Hub, which was one of the first VC funds here in South Central Europe, is now complaining that European funds are coming into their home territory and asking for good deals. So at Series A stage and later, you will have all access to also global funds. The challenge is to get to Series A. So it's very important to have these angels, seed funds who are actually helping entrepreneurs at extremely early stage. Because Sequoia, Bessemer, they will certainly be super interested to invest in your growing Series A company, but they don't know you. They don't know that you are an amazing engineer, that you are a great salesperson. If you live here in Sarajevo, you first need to show some results, and then the VCs from the valley will certainly come.
Okay, that's it for maybe related to what you said.
Maybe, sorry, if I can just add on, onto that, because I would like to kind of draw a line to the concrete things that we see in our community here, and it also comes to the education, because when you talk about Series A and those big things and big wins, our people really here that are trying to start a startup, or that we have to encourage to start a startup, they have no idea what it means to go to IPO or to have a Series A. And I had personal experience where I felt bullied by an investor because I didn't understand the language. I didn't have an experience in that. So I do know that certain institutions here, even educational institutions, are working on that education part as well, of figuring out what it means to grow a startup to the global scale. But we need to start small. So that's why I'm saying that this ecosystem that Foundation 787 is building is really nurturing the ones who are creative and who want to be creators. There's not a lot of creators in the world. Startup entrepreneurs are the creator type of people. And no, not everyone should be a startup founder. I definitely think that 100%. So we need to nurture those who have potential to be and who are bold enough and have enough, are risk agnostic to do that. So that's why I think that we need to kind of start from the small steps. Okay, goal is to reach Series A, B, C, not actually goal, but at some point you'll come across it. But the point is to make the mentality of our community aware that you need to show something for it. You need to build traction, and in order to build traction, to build successful business, there are multiple steps, concrete steps that you can take, and you can avoid making mistakes like I did. It took me 3 years to understand that I made several huge mistakes, as I pointed at the beginning. So my point would be kind of to just help people solve these kind of early stage things first in order to be able to grow to the Series A and B, C. So.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to touch base on something exciting right now because, as I mentioned at the beginning, Dusan went through a very successful exit not so long ago. And basically, I would like to touch base on this. How was it, Dusan? Why did you decide to do that? What was the driver for you to actually exit the company and basically give it to somebody else and leave everything you've been building for years? That's my question to you. And I would like to ask, rest of the panelists, when would they feel comfortable selling the company? When would they feel it's right time to exit? So that's something I'd like to know. I believe audience too. Go ahead, please.
So we've decided to sell because it was the best thing for the company at that time. So we've started SaaS management market 6 years ago. So as SaaS was started to get widely adopted by companies throughout the world, also many challenges came about, and the company I founded, Clean Shelf, was set to address those challenges. And when I started 6 years ago, there was no competition. We are one of the first in the market, but actually over the past 6 years, as you know, SaaS exploded, and our market got super heated. And when I got in touch with LinaX in January of this year, we found that we have a great opportunity to work together for us at CleanShelf to access all the amazing customers that LeanIX has, such companies such as Salesforce, DHL, Adidas, and so forth. On the other hand, CleanShelf opened a SaaS management market for LeanIX, so we thought that we are stronger together, and that was the way how to fend the competition from American players which entered in the last few years. So I feel very proud that I was able to raise $8 million in funding, and I think we put that money to extremely good use. But my competitors raised $80 million just because they can. They are Silicon Valley companies, and competing with a company which has 10 times your funding is really hard or close to impossible. And that's why we thought that it's best to join forces with LeanIX so that we can win this market together.
Thank you. Please continue, whoever feels comfortable.
If you want, you can go, but when is the right time to sell is the question. If there's a recipe to that, I would like to know it, because my personal opinion right now is that it comes to the energy, and I keep coming back to this energy thing. It's weird. But my opinion is that you have to be honest with yourself in a sense of you built something, you accomplished something, and the business and the market don't always move, usually don't move like how you wanted. So if logically and objectively you can think of a better way for your company to grow and succeed, I think you should take it and exit. And that's the example that Dusan just explained. And also it can kind of be more on a personal side things. It's not something that you are passionate about anymore. Again, I like to be honest with myself. If it's not something I'm passionate about, what's the point of forcing it? If I'm excited or I want to be something else, want to do something else. The point of me starting a startup is because I was passionate about it and I was crazy in love to do it. If I don't want to do it anymore, let's find a way for it to succeed if it's working business. If not, let's put it down, let's learn from it, let's move to the next thing. Again, very hard, objective things, emotional. We are people, we have emotions, so it is emotional, but again, if you can be honest with yourself, I think it's always a win, no matter what you do or the decisions that you do. But it's also based on the data and the objectives, so again, it's situational, but you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, I agree that it's multi-factor thing, and there is no clear-cut answer. Of course, it depends on the situation from situation. Okay, if you ask a banker, the right time to exit is when the company is overvalued times, let's say 10. You exit and you buy back, and you lost nothing. But this is not what we're talking about. It's not finance. And I think the answer is usually subjective. So it's not the same thing for me, for you, or for anybody else. So, for example, my personal view is that I do something while I feel that some new ideas are required, something new, interesting is happening, etc., etc. And when it comes to the stage that it's just grinding the existing thing, then of course maybe I will not exit fully, but I will exit partially because, as you probably know, there are consulting companies that just basically do scaling. They do scaling for business. So I would exit with, let's say, 10-20% of my equity. I would hire a scaling company, let them scale. I would pull back fully, and then maybe make some new idea or something like that. That's my personal thing. There is no clear-cut answer. There is no final answer. But this is just to give you some maybe idea about what are the possibilities. Probably every one of us has the idea when or how he or she would exit the company, and it depends on the type of the personality that you are, as everything else in life. And I sometimes cannot read what I wrote. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
If I may add, the exit also, like, there are some misconceptions related to the growth of startups, the investing, but also about exit. Exit also is not, I just make decision and it happens within a days. It usually takes months, it can take years also, so it's very multi-factor, as you said, and it depends also on, you know, having all board agree with the type of exit you want to take as founder if you have so much equity that also you have a huge say in it. So it can come from the strategy where you started with a passion, but you might start your startup with clear decision, okay, I will grow it for 2-3 years, have that level of development, I immediately want to sell it. In other version, I just want to take over part, or there are so many different versions. And saying from the actor in the ecosystem, I think also this is something that we need to, in Bosnia, learn more about the pre-investment process, the investment process, but also what happens afterwards. We really lack knowledge about that because we lack experience, and because, I don't know, we feel maybe that it's so easy. In our heads, it's very simple. It's like 2 ticks, but usually, like the development of startups, everything takes a lot more time than we envisioned in the beginning.
My friend is chairman of Roblox. They made a $40 billion IPO in the first part of this year. And when I congratulate him, he responded to me, yeah, it was overnight success, 20 years in making. And that's typically how the situation is. But on the other hand, when the opportunity comes a knocking, everything happens so extremely fast. So I first spoke with the CEO of LinaX on January 15th this year, and we got our money on bank account on March 11th. So that's less than 2 months.
Well, I hope everybody has the same experience when they sell a company. Okay, anybody else something to add, or we're done? Okay, so something that Vedran was talking about today, but I want to hear it from you guys, because you raised money and Diana gives money to people. I'd like to know how does that process look like? How hard it is, how hard is, because Vedran was on the other side, you guys were somebody who asks for money. How hard was it actually to get that money? So that's something I'd like to know, and I think it's interesting.
Okay, so my personal experience is, I think I'm fortunate enough that with my founding team, we at the first day said, okay, we set a couple of things on the table. We will not chase the investment. We will chase getting something done and building a successful business. In order to do that, we are talking about SaaS. We cannot focus on what the heck is happening in Bosnia, because it's a SaaS business. It has no limitations. It's a global business. So we don't care about our local restrictions or something. We are able to build the best product, the best business in the world without any limitations. That was our mentality. Of course, we have to understand that we still are physically in Bosnia. There are certain different kinds of limitations, but when it comes to the product and the value to the customers, we can offer the best thing in the world. So with that mentality, we went into building it, and it took us 2 years to